Well, here we are again.
And we are here.
Brian?
We are here. We are Keith.
How's it going?
Very good.
Brian?
Keith.
Good to see you.
Brian. We are here on
I feel like saying who's on third.
What's on second?
Something like that. But I'm Keith.
I'm Brian.
So am I.
And this is DenverWineGuy.com. Welcome to another show. We have Brian Moore here from Wildman & Sons.
In
Frederick Wildman & Sons out of New York, big import company.
Celebrating our 75th anniversary this very year.
I think they're flying us to New York to celebrate.
I think so.
So here we go.
Well, I would be happy to go to New York, but to be honest with you, I'm happy to have this bottle of wine.
Right here?
Right here. Is it CICLOS?
CICLOS is how it's pronounced. It's from a winery called Michel Torino in the Cafayete mountains of northern Argentina. And it has a unique medallion on the label that Brian is showing you. It shows the sun and the moon.
Little metal
medallion. Is specifically references the diurnal range of the vineyards where these grapes are grown in the mountains of Cafayete.
And those mountains are where?
North of Mendoza,
okay.
South of the equator.
Okay.
And
they're on the eastern side.
Do you have your map with you?
Mostly, it's kind of northwestern.
Okay.
Just on this side of the Andes, you've got Chile, you've got the Andes,
right.
You've got the town of Salta north of Mendoza.
Okay.
And in that valley, the Cafayete Valley, is where there are only 16 wineries in the entire region.
Really?
There's only 3 wine growing regions in Argentina, but it is a very large country and produces an awful lot of wine. To the south, there's Patagonia, and which is the southernmost, is very close to the South Pole. And then you have Mendoza, which most people are aware of now because Argentina is now the 4th largest country of origin of wines imported to the U.S., behind only Italy, Australia, and France.
And sorry to interrupt, but at one time, I don't know if this is true today, but Argentina, most people think of France and Italy as certainly one of the largest producers, but Argentina for decades was the largest consumer of wines. But again,
really?
you might
very possible.
Fill us in on.
It's very possible. I don't know that for a fact today. All I know is that as the largest importers of Argentinian wines in the U.S., we're very happy that it's one of the few imported categories that happen to be up on an annual basis at the present time. As there are several different trends going on in our industry, and we obviously have seen some issues and challenges over the last year, but Argentina remains very, very healthy. And this happens to be a wine that's a little bit more on the upper end of the spectrum for most of our Argentinian wines, and so it's a nice one to talk about as a little bit of a treat.
So CICLOS, it says on the front Malbec Merlot 2004.
Yes.
What's the percentages on the
50-50.
50-50
on this particularly.
Okay.
And the wine, as I mentioned, it represents the diurnal range, and that is basically the difference between the coldest temperature of the night and the warmest temperature of the day is the diurnal range. And in the mountains of Cafayete, some of the highest vineyards in elevation in the world, anywhere from 5 to 7,500 feet above sea level, you have a very wide diurnal range. And Argentina has attributes found almost nowhere else in the world. It has a very high number of days of sunshine. We brag about 300 days of sunshine here in Colorado, but in Argentina it's anywhere between 320 and 350 days of sunshine. They have very little, if any, frost, very little natural pests, so the use of pesticides is kept to an absolute minimum.
Yep.
You've got snowmelt from the Andes to provide adequate water sources, because it's a very dry country in general. And with all of the sun, you get tremendous ripening of the fruit, and phenolic ripening, which directly goes to the complexity and the quality of wines, and red wines in particular.
You know, I just was going to mention that one of the things I really like about this wine, were you going to try to give me a rate?
No, I was going to say, what do you think of the wine?
I like the fact that they've got the Merlot blended into this because a big rage right now is Malbec.
Right.
I can't seem to keep enough Malbec in the store. In fact, last week I was down to one bottle or one brand.
Just rename the store Malbec store.
I mean, everybody
Make sure
wants
my
Malbec.
salesman calls on you because we have a wide variety of Malbecs.
Me personally, I find Malbec not to be that interesting. I mean, it just doesn't do much for me. But because the Merlot is blended into this, one of the reasons why I don't like the Malbec is because I find that it doesn't always have to be, but it tends to have a lot of bell pepper, green, vegetal type characteristics that works well with certain dishes. On its own as a wine, I'm not terribly fond of, but the Merlot in this adds the fruit that creates another layer of complexity that makes the wine, I think, more approachable and more interesting to drink.
Very complex. I mean, people, go out and get this. It's very, it's got to me, it's definitely has some chalkiness to it. I mean, I get that on my palate, that chalky, not tannin, but that chalkiness, like 2/3 of the way back, it just kind of feels like a little, there's chalk.
Is that from soil? Or?
It is definitely from the soil, but the most important components of the wine refer directly to the name CICLOS and the diurnal range. It turns out that the Merlot in Cafayete has this minty spice character,
right,
and that represents the coolness of the lower end of the diurnal range.
Okay.
And the Malbec, the warm red fruit, and almost to the point of being dusty, and that's a term that I use when I describe Malbec.
Sure. See that.
Represents the heat of the day. And
right.
Some of our viewers may or may not know that you need both cool and heat in order to produce balanced wines, because the big fruit and the sugar are created during the heat of the day, and the acid comes from the cool of the night, and it shuts down. It shuts down the process of the grape over-ripening. The grape literally needs to rest at night, otherwise the fruit would be out of control.
You ought to be the marketing guy for these guys. So if you guys are really listening to what Brian just said, it really goes in unison with the medallion that's on the label, the night and day. Did they tell you that, or
they did tell me that?
Okay, I was
I did
impressed.
not make that up.
I'm like, wow, you're tying this all in, Brian.
He's got a memory like an elephant.
Well, it's important to note that this comes from a very well-known winery. I mentioned there's only 16 in all of Cafayete, but some of the better-known winemakers from Argentina are there, like Paul Hobbs and Suzanne Balboa. But Michel Torino has been there since the late 1800s. It was a family-owned winery from the union of a French and an Italian family, and they've been making wines of consequence there for well over 100 years.
This wine's really opening up, too, after 5 minutes.
Yes.
It's really coming around. The structure's going. So here's an example of a wine you just open, and you got to give it some time. It'll really release the aromas, the fruit, and the whole structure part of this wine comes out after like 5 minutes, and it's totally different than it was when I first tasted it 5
So
minutes
imagine
ago.
in 30 minutes what this wine's going to taste like.
5 years. I mean, it's just full of
not
complexity.
Not 5 years open.
No.
That's 5 years in your cellar. For those of you who didn't get that.
So we need to get to a rating.
Brian?
Oh, this wine steps into the fine wine range for me, so I would give this 90 points.
And the price on this?
This would retail for about $25.
25.
I was going to say 25 to 30.
Alcohol content?
Relatively low, 13.9, 13.5.
I was going to say 14. Is it on there? It's got to be on here.
I'm gonna give it a rating.
Oh, 13.9. Oh, you do know your wine.
Seems like it seems a little higher to me than that, but I'm going to rate it right now. I'm going to say 91 points. I'm going to put a plus on it. It's really showing. It's really opening up. I really like what.
Yeah, I would really like to taste this wine in 20 minutes and see.
We will actually.
Yes, we will be.
Unfortunately, you won't be.
And
we may do a little show on that too. So what are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it. What did you just say?
I said 91 plus.
I was going to give it 90 points, but I'm sure the plus would come in and affect, because I still think It's still opening.
It's evolving.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
evolving.
as wine does.
I think it's got more to offer.
Me too. So, 91 points plus, I give it.
90 points.
90 points.
And Brian,
90 points. We really like it. Go to frederickweilman.com
And your favorite retailer.
and your favorite retailer. But you can search it on frederickweilman.com and see kind of where you can get it at. But just ask your retailer again for
Michel Torino, CICLOS.
CICLOS 2004.
Malbec Merlot,
No.
2004.
Exactly. And if they have a problem, just refer them to the website and they can watch the show themselves and see the bottle. Right?
I'm Brian.
Indeed.
I'm Keith,
And I'm Brian.
and this is DenverWineGuy.com. Thanks for watching.
Salute.
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 That's it.